First of all, I have to tell you that I am sure that the future of sex is assured because of all of you being here. So here's what I would like to do. I'll put a few issues on the table, and then let's have a discussion. And as you know, there is a midrash which explains why somebody like me, at the age of 84, can still talk about sex from morning till night, because I'm so Jewish, because for us Jews, sex has never been considered a sin. Sex has always been considered a mitzvah between a husband and a wife. I don't want you just to pick up somebody at the convention for tonight, but I want you to promise that all of you who don't have a significant other, that you are going to look for one as of today. And those of you who do have somebody, I want you to make believe that it's Friday night tonight. I want you to engage in a different sexual position. And I want you to call me tomorrow, because maybe I can learn something new. My main message is that when people ask me, how come I can still do this and talk and enjoy it, it's because I really, on a serious note, believe that each one of us has to do and learn something new every single day. That has to do with the future. For us Jews, it also says in the tradition that if you stand on the shoulders of giants, you can see further. Now, you do know I'm 4'7". I cannot shrink, because otherwise you're not going to see me anymore. But I certainly am standing on the shoulders of giants in terms of the topic that I talk about, from Kinsey to Masters and Johnson to Dr. Helen Singer Kaplan, who trained me. And the message for the future is not to forget what they have taught us, to include it, to work with it, but to also go forward. What we do need, and I hope I can prove that in the little time that I have, what we do need is more research. We do have some data. We do have some scientifically validated data, but it's not enough. For us Jews, not only that it's a mitzvah on Friday night, it also, there's a prayer, Eshet Chayil Mi Yimtza, a woman of valor who can find. There is one sentence that in that prayer that I believe is the most sexually arousing of all sentences in the entire world. That sentence says, there are many wonderful women out there, but the husband says to his wife, you are the very best. And in terms of sexual mechanism, in terms of sexual arousal, there is no better sentence than for him to say, you are the very best. I would like her to say to him also, you are the very best. So maybe we add that to the tradition. So I want to tell you a little bit what has changed in the US and also here. But I do live there, so I know more about the scientifically validated data from there. What has changed in the couple of years is not the questions. The issue about relationships, the issue about disappointments, the issue about finding somebody, the issue about how to keep that spark of sexuality going has remained the same. What has changed is the vocabulary. People ask me questions with much more explicit language than in previous years. I'll tell you what else has changed. There is no question that women have heard the message, and I'm not the only one, there are other sex educators, but they have heard the message that a woman has to take the responsibility for her orgasms. Can all of you say orgasm? A little louder. That was wonderful. A woman has to take the responsibility for her sexual satisfaction. Even a lover trained by me cannot bring a woman to orgasm if she doesn't take the responsibility to tell him what she needs. And that has resulted, that talking about it, has resulted in less women not having sexual satisfaction, in less women not knowing what is needed and to transfer that knowledge to their partners. So the language has changed, and that is very, very helpful to all of us. I tell you what else has changed. There are less men with a sexual problem that is called premature ejaculation. There used to be many more, especially young men, who ejaculated before they wanted to ejaculate. They used to say that these are men who don't like women. Not so. It is a learning difficulty. It is easily remedied. And it is also, it's always a question of that sexuality education and knowledge that we have to know. I'm going to say something here that is controversial, especially for some of the observant Jews. I'm going to tell you here that in terms of homosexuality, we do not know the etiology, the reason for homosexuality. We don't know the etiology, the reason for heterosexuality. One thing I know as an educator is any couple who walks into my office, a heterosexual couple, a homosexual couple, I treat everybody with the same respect that I would treat any heterosexual couple. So respect is not debatable, but we do need more data, we do need more research in order to really understand the whole spectrum. The other important new aspect for the future is that we do now know more about sexuality and older people. We do know that older people need to be touched. They need to have to be massaged. We know that there are some realities in terms of getting older. The orgasmic response is not as intense. The erection for a man is not as hard as it was. But if they spend their lives in saying, oh, how terrible, it doesn't feel like it used to feel, that would be sad. What I'm saying, make the best out of what there is available. Older men have to know they cannot hang from a chandelier anymore. But there are positions, and there is knowledge, and that's what has to be transmitted. For example, the knowledge that for an older couple, it is better to engage in sexual activity in the mornings. The erection is firmer. For a woman, it's important to know that it's not true that she needs the night, that she needs the stars to twinkle. I'm telling an older couple, in the morning, get up, have breakfast, hang the phone off the hook, go back into bed, and have a good sexual experience. Don't wait until the evening until you are too tired. When I talk about older people, I have to mention that blue pill. I'm not a medical doctor. I would never tell any man if he can use it, but if a urologist or his medical caretaker says he can use it, then I'm all for it. But listen carefully. Here is what happened in the United States. Some men went and got the Viagra. Then they come home, and now they have an erection from the floor to the ceiling, and they tell their wives, hop into bed. They haven't talked to her in 3 days because there was a sports event on television. They forgot her birthday. They forgot their marriage date. They forgot Valentine's Day. And all of the women here know what that wife is telling her husband what to do with that erection if the relationship is not a good one. So constantly I talk about the past, the present, and the future in terms of saying the importance of the relationship. I'm not talking about a Hollywood type, but I'm talking about a working relationship that the two people have. And now I want to give a little bit about, since we have to talk about the future, a little bit in addition to this sexuality education, in addition to getting more research. As you all know, Masters and Johnson observed 1,400 sexual intercourse episodes in a laboratory setting. People actually having sex, computers recording, people watching, and you are going to say, who is willing to do that? And I'm going to tell you, there were medical students who needed money, there were prostitutes who needed money, and then that's where all of you come in. There were people who volunteered for the sake of scientific investigation. And you are very lucky because I'm not involved in these studies. I only take what they have written about and researched in order to teach and treat sexual dysfunction. I already mentioned premature ejaculation. I'm going to mention women who have difficulty having an orgasm. And I have to tell you that President Shimon Peres said something this morning, which I'm going to use. He said, I didn't ask him about his sex life. I don't ask personal questions. But he said that in love and in peacemaking, you have to close your eyes. Very interesting. I'm going to use that because what it means for me as a sex therapist and educator, it gives the message that you really have to concentrate. You can't think about the dishes that are not made, or the bed that's not made, or the mother-in-law that you hate. You really have to close your eyes and feel that sexual arousal and make the very best of it. So I'm going to use what the president has said. I want to put something on the table for all of us that's important. And it's important for the future. That has to do with the internet. I believe that a couple, hopefully closing the door and no children in the room, that a couple, that it's perfectly all right to look at sexually explicit material on television or on the internet. I'm sure that that book, 50 Shades of Grey, who has heard about the book? I'm sure it gets translated into Hebrew soon. I'm all for it because it proves a point. They used to say that women do not get aroused by erotic literature or by sexually explicit material. Not so. A long time ago, Lady Chadela's Lover, then came The Fear of Flying, and now I have to tell you, because God forbid that you know about something and I don't know, I read all 3 volumes of 50 Shades of Grey. So I can say to you that people should use it. Women should use it. All of us have such rushed lives that it's important to say, okay, right now we have some time to caress, to massage each other, and to be sexually aroused. Back to the warning. Scare techniques usually do not work. What we have to worry about is that to teach, but to teach, like it says in our tradition, if you teach with humor, the less students will remain. They will remember what you taught about. So what we have to say in terms of the internet is our youngsters have to realize the dangers. They have to realize not to put a picture of themselves naked on the internet. They have to realize never, ever to meet somebody whom they have talked on the internet. Parents have an obligation to know what their youngsters are doing on the internet, and also even with gossip. Some people put gossip on the internet and they think they can retrieve it. It can't be retrieved. I tell you what happened in New York. I'm sure you know about that. At Rutgers University, a student was filmed by his roommate be engaged in a sexual encounter with an older man, and he jumped from the George Washington Bridge. It wasn't his only problem, but it was something that kind of gave him that last push of committing suicide. So I do believe that in terms of the internet, in terms of what our children see, that we have that obligation. I have to tell you that my late husband, I was married for almost 40 years, and Fred passed away 14 years ago. I never permitted him to come to any of my talks. I'll tell you why. Now when I'm going to ask for questions, he would sit there, he would raise his hand, I wouldn't be able to just ignore him, and he would say to you, don't listen to her, it's all talk. One time I made an exception. Diane Sawyer, Fred loved Diane Sawyer. Diane Sawyer came to my apartment in Washington Heights in New York, where I still live, and I didn't have the heart to say to Fred, you can't be home. So here's Diane Sawyer with 60 Minutes, comes to the apartment, we sit down, the cameras are rolling, and Diane Sawyer says, Mr. Westheimer, how is your sex life? To which Fred said, and I have it on tape, the shoemaker's children don't have shoes. So while it's wonderful to be able to take the data and to take the material, we do have to say we need more education. We, for example, need more across the United States, and I'm sure here also, we need more sex education classes in the schools. I'm old-fashioned and a square. I would never ask anybody any direct questions, but I tell teachers, have a shoebox in the classroom, let the children put in questions, no names, and answer those questions. When I did the radio, I did it 10 years, every Sunday night, called Sexually Speaking, and I didn't ask people for their last name. I only was interested in what they asked, knowing that everybody else who listened to me is hopefully going to learn something. I'll give you one example. A young man called. He said, Dr. Ruth, I think they couldn't say Westheimer, too long a name. So they said, Dr. Ruth, and it's okay. He said he and his girlfriend love each other. So you know already when they have, and he told me that they have good sex. So you do know that they were not religious. And I didn't ask them about that. I just heard what he said. And he said that they don't want to be parents right now, so they are using contraceptive. So I was very happy. I asked, what is your comment? Because sociologically speaking, programs like this create a community of listeners. So I said, what's your comment? And he said, because people sometimes called in to give advice to somebody who called before. He said that his girlfriend likes to toss onion rings on his erect penis. I did exactly what you are doing. I giggled because a good sex therapist has to visualize what people do. And then it gave me the opportunity to use it for a teaching moment. I said, anything two consenting adults do in the privacy of their kitchen floor, living room couch, or in the bedroom is perfectly all right. Now I have to tell you what's happening new because we're talking about the future. I told you already my age. As we speak, on June 30th, there is going to be a play written by the playwright Mark Saint-Germain, a Canadian who wrote Freud's Last Session. And he now wrote a play. I have to tell you, they didn't check the title with me. I blush a little when I say it, but to you here I have to say it, because the opening is on June 30th. The play is called Dr. Ruth All the Way. And I said, it's okay. The woman who plays me is a woman many of you know. Her name is Deborah Jo Rupp, and she's from the television series of the 70s show. The reason I'm smiling at the same time that I'm blushing a little is when I go to the United States, I thought I'll just study for a doctorate. I'll come back to Israel. You all know my story. I said, they told me you have to take speech lessons to lose your German, Frankfurt am Main, Swiss, Israeli, 5 years Paris, Sorbonne. To lose your accent, you have to take lessons. At the time, I made $1 an hour. And I said, okay, and I went for my doctorate. I said, okay, one day I will. Thank God I never had time or money. But she right now, Deborah, is getting speech lessons from a speech coach to learn my accent. So the other thing that is new, because Israelis always want to know what is new, in the future there's a wine coming out called Vin d'Amour. Can you all say that, Vin d'Amour? Wine of love. Why? I tell couples, I tell all of you who have a partner, everybody has rushed lives. When you get home, drink a little bit of wine. But I say, don't drink too much, otherwise she falls asleep and he can't get an erection. So drink a little alcohol. So here's the Vin d'Amour, Dr. Ruth's Vin d'Amour. Less alcohol content so that they will get into the mood of a good sexual experience without her falling asleep and him not having an erection. So the other thing that is happening, I'm very fortunate. First of all, I have the best 4 grandchildren in the world, but I don't let them come to my lectures. And but when I look at them, as many of you know my history, I say Hitler lost and I won. All I have to do is look at those 4 magnificent grandchildren. So I would like to get, whoever is getting me the first question, don't say I. I have to say one more sentence that has to do with the future. When I did the television program, I did 450 programs, taking actors and actresses, we assigned them problems. A man comes home, he finds his wife in bed with his best friend, or he has difficulties with his erection. Pardon? Okay, he's told me 7 minutes, I'll talk fast. Or he has difficulties with his erection that fits the talking fast because it takes a longer time. And we assigned those problems. I never used real people. You will never see me in a reality television show. I used actors and actresses. I said the mother-in-law hates that wife. This is why she has difficulties having orgasms. The man has retarded ejaculation, or he has other difficulties, whatever it is. After the program, I could say to them, you did that very well, to the actors and actresses. They got paid, and I could sleep at night. So all of these reality television shows, you will never see me endorsing them or talking about it. I want to tell you, I did a book, which I hope will be translated also here, for parents of youngsters that has to do with teens and sex today, and from social networking to friends with benefits. I have to tell you, I'm not computer literate, but I can talk. I have the gift of talking. I have people put it on the computer. I have right now 56,721 people on Twitter. I want to get a few more. Thank you. So can I see some light? Whoever is asking me the first question about a friend of theirs is getting a keychain, Sex for Dummies. Come here, here's a microphone.
Dr. Ruth.
Yes.
We love you. We love you.
I love that at the age of 84, they had to give us a bigger room. I love that.
I'll just come talk to you. Can you share with us some of the new research coming out on female orgasm or direct us towards some resources for further learning?
Now, the first thing I want to tell you, let's bury a myth. All of us here, because they're talking about, all of you know that about the G-spot, loud and clear. Until more research is available, I do not know if there is such a thing as a G-spot. I'm not saying there is no such thing, because I'm not a physiologist. I'm waiting for more data, but careful. We have had so many myths about the issue of sexuality that the myth about the G-spot is damaging. It's like, so I have some people coming and saying to me, a woman, she loves her husband for 4 months. They have tried to find the G-spot. They can't find it. She thinks she's not normal. Not so until we have scientifically validated data. To be careful not to create new myths. For example, another myth, the issue of multiple orgasms, because you asked about women's orgasms. Careful. There are some women who have an orgasmic response and are satisfied. And there are some women who do need further stimulation of the clitoris in order to be orgasmic. But this idea that it has to be multiple orgasms is very damaging because it puts pressure. We all live with enough pressure. It puts more pressure in terms of that relationship. I also want to warn, that comes out of some of the questionnaires and some of the questions that are being asked. Please, women, don't tell him that your last lover had a larger penis. Not a good idea. He's going to lose his erection. Size of penis has nothing to do with the sexual satisfaction of the woman, except if it's a minuscule one. Then you might have a problem. I send them to a urologist. And careful for men not to say that, boy, the last lover had bigger breasts or that she kissed better. People usually don't forget sentences like this. So it's very important to be sensitive, but what we do need more research about is the whole issue of sexual arousal. I told you before in the prayer, Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, that sentence of you are the very best. We need more research in terms, we know that it takes women a longer time to be up on the curve of sexual arousal. And women need a longer time after orgasm to get back down that curve. Men who say that it's physiological, that right after ejaculation they have to go to sleep, are sexually ignorant. Because if they could learn that a woman needs to be caressed, a woman needs to be talked to, and she needs to be held in order for that curve to be successful. What we have to teach men is that this actually will provide the arousal for the next sexual encounter, even if that next sexual encounter is 3 weeks later. But so there is a lot of real data that just people have to know in order to be sexually literate. Can I have one more? Another question? You get a keychain.
Dr. Ruth, hi.
Where are you? Yes.
Hi, תודה רבה, first of all. נתבוסי in Israel עד 120 כמו 20. and maybe even beyond. Thank
you.
you so much for being here. And speaking of the future, any chance to have you here as the Minister of Education in Israel? We can talk. No. My question is unfortunate. Well, it's maybe less funny. I would love to know your thoughts about the ultra-Orthodox community.
The what?
Ultra-Orthodox community.
Yes.
And, well, first of all, I don't know if anybody in the community was courageous enough to invite you already to speak to
Yes.
them. And if not...
Yeah, let me tell you. First of all, I come from an Orthodox home, Frankfurt am Main. If you would have told me that I talk about erection and orgasm all day long, I would have said to you, you must be kidding. I did a book with Jonathan Mark, who is the editor of the Jewish Week, an Orthodox Jew. I do know about the rules and regulations of Nida, and I'm telling Orthodox couples, first of all, they have to be as sexually literate as anybody else. Now, there are color classes, there are classes for the women, there are classes for the men. I'm not making a revolution by saying they should be together. They should separately learn, but they should learn. I'm telling an Orthodox couple who adheres to Nida, who 5 days of menstruation, 7 clean days, and then she goes to the mikvah. With many couples, what actually happens, he takes over the household chores so that she can rest when she comes back from the mikvah. He has an obligation to engage in sexual activity with her. If the relationship is a good one, that's wonderful. Because now 12 days have passed before they can have sex again. I would never tell a reform or a couple who doesn't adhere to these rules and regulations to do that, because it wouldn't work. It has to fit into the values, into the beliefs, and into the adherence to the rules of that particular couple. But when the couple that does engage, I think it is wonderful. And I know there is a tremendous amount of work to be done. Here's the future for all of you young people. More education. And I'm not saying that they should do education with mixed couples. If the values and the beliefs and the religious beliefs call, and I'm saying the same to Catholics, calls for separate classes, that's what should be done. But the important thing is to say, there is some data, there is knowledge. People have to know what to do in order to remain sexually active until a very late stage in life. As you know, in the Jewish tradition, you can get a get. As you know, in the Jewish tradition, there are very many people who will try to make shidduchim. I think there should be more. I'm very worried in our day and age, talking about the future, about loneliness. I'm very worried about expectations. Television has done a tremendous a problem because they think that everything has to be like Hollywood. They think that, I'm telling you, read the Shades of Grey, but no, it's fantasies. And no, when you watch sexually explicit material, know that this guy doesn't have an erection for an hour, that this is for movies, and be realistic about it. But the worrisome thing is the expectations that we have because of the way all of us live. Can I have another one? Three keychains. Okay.
Hi, Dr. Ruth. So I'm a college student at the University of Michigan, and a lot of my friends, a lot of my girlfriends, I know have always talked about, and I've kind of gotten more interested in female sexuality in general, but there's a lot of changing norms, I guess, over the past, maybe 20 years about how you meet people in college. So a lot of women, I think, have problems with, just going to a bar, meeting somebody, and having sex with them, and that's it. So I was wondering what you thought about how women are turned on by, physiological relationships versus one-time things.
First of all, I want people to find somebody. I believe there is somebody out there for everybody. So I want people not to go to bars, because if they don't find somebody, they'll go home sad. I want people who are looking for somebody to participate in an activity that's of interest to them. Go take a course. Go to the opera. Find somebody in the intermission and say, wasn't that wonderful? Do something so that when you go home, you gain something for yourself. Now, if a woman, I also believe that women should start the conversation. It's time, it's not like in the Victorian age. In the Victorian age, the woman dropped a handkerchief. Sometimes the wrong man picked it up. And sometimes, sadly, the handkerchief remained on the floor. So I want women to say, are you free for coffee? But they can't fall to pieces if he says, I have to wash my hair tonight. Because that's what they have heard all of the years. I'm very much for women taking the responsibility of starting a conversation, but they have to have that inner assurance by saying, if he says no, she has to say to herself, you don't know what you are missing. So I'm not so much for bars, because very often people then go home and they haven't met anybody. I'm for content that you do something that you think there is a possibility of meeting somebody. Do I have time for one more? No? No more time? Okay, I want to tell you something. All of you who have partners, different position tonight. All of you who don't have a partner, when I come back next year for the next convention, I need you to have partners. Shalom v'kol tov.
היי, להציע אנשים, להגיד...